I don't remember the exact moment I noticed her watching me, only that when I finally looked up, her eyes were already there. Quiet, steady, like she'd been waiting for me to meet them. She leaned against the doorway of her bedroom, arms folded lightly, not hiding the small smile tugging at her mouth. I was kneeling on the floor, surrounded by wooden planks and silver screws that kept slipping through my fingers. Her laugh had come earlier, low and amused, when I swore under my breath after dropping the Allen key for the third time. But now the room was silent, except for the faint hum of traffic outside the window. "You're taking this very seriously," she said at last, her voice even, almost teasing. I wiped my hands on my jeans and shrugged. "It's your bed. Can't exactly mess it up." She tilted her head. The light from the hallway caught the fine lines near her eyes, but instead of softening her, they gave her a kind of elegance I hadn't expected. She was older, years older, yet nothing about her felt distant. If anything, the air seemed smaller with her standing there. I bent over the half-built frame, forcing myself to focus on the screws, though my mind kept circling back to the way her perfume lingered faintly in the air, warm, floral, something I couldn't name but wanted to keep breathing in. My hand brushed against the wooden slat, and for a second, I thought about what it would feel like if it were her hand instead. "You're good with your hands," she said. It sounded casual, but her tone carried weight. I laughed too quickly, too loudly, as if to deflect. "Depends who you ask." Her smile flickered, and she pushed away from the doorframe, walking into the room. The floor creaked under her bare feet. She didn't sit, didn't lean, just stood close enough that I could feel the subtle warmth of her body near mine. I tightened the bolt with deliberate slowness, pretending concentration, though every part of me was aware of her. "You're sweating," she murmured. I wiped my forehead with my sleeve, embarrassed. "It's hot in here." "Is it?" She said it softly, almost to herself. The silence, after stretched. My heart was hammering in a way I hoped didn't show. I straightened, finally daring to meet her eyes again. She was watching me, not the bed, not the tools, just me. And for a breath, I forgot the space between our ages, forgot how wrong it might look, forgot everything but the unspoken pull that was building with each second. When her hand brushed mine, just barely, just enough to feel the slide of her skin against my knuckles, it was almost nothing. Almost. But the way she let it linger told me it wasn't an accident. I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. Words sat on my tongue, heavy and useless. She broke the silence first. "You'll have to test it, you know." The sentence landed between us like a spark. I tried to laugh, but it came out thin. "Test it." Her smile didn't reach her eyes this time. They stayed locked on mine, steady, unreadable, and somehow daring. Before I could answer, before I could decide if she was serious or only teasing, the sound of the front door opening echoed through the house. A sharp metallic click, followed by footsteps. She pulled her hand back instantly, and for the first time since I'd met her, she looked away. The sound of the front door startled me more than it should have. Her hand was gone, her posture sharper now, as if nothing had happened. "Probably just a neighbor dropping something off," she said quickly, moving past me. Her voice was smooth, but a little too quick, like she needed to cover the silence with something. The steps faded. The house settled again. She came back into the room, calmer, though she didn't stand as close as before. I bent back over the bed frame, pretending to tighten a screw that was already tight. I should have said something, anything, to lighten the tension. But all I could think about was the way her skin had felt against mine. Later, when the bed was nearly finished, she brought in 2 glasses of water. She set one down beside me, her fingers brushing the rim longer than necessary before pulling away. "You ever done this before?" she asked. I frowned. "Build a bed?" "No," she said softly. "Been here. With someone like me." The air seemed to contract. She sat on the edge of the half-assembled frame, back straight, her knees only inches from my arm. "I haven't," I admitted. My voice was too honest, too bare. "And you?" She laughed once, short and bitter. "I've been married. Twice." I didn't know what to say, so I stayed quiet. She traced the rim of her glass with one finger, avoiding my eyes now. "It's easier, after a while," To just not expect much, she went on. People get tired. They leave. Or they stay, but they leave anyway. You'll understand someday. I swallowed, watching the way her hand trembled slightly before she set the glass down. She was confident, yes, elegant and sharp, but in that moment I saw something softer beneath it. A weight she carried that she didn't want me to notice. I'm not like that, I said quietly. Her head tilted, eyes narrowing just enough to test me. You're young. You don't know what you'll be like yet. Maybe she was right. But the way she looked at me, as she said it told me, she didn't quite believe her own words either. We kept working, though the work was slower now. Our arms brushed when we reached for the same tool. Once, she leaned past me to adjust the slat, and her breath brushed the side of my face. I froze, staring down at the wood like it held the answer to something I didn't know how to ask. When I finally straightened up, she was closer than before, her hand resting lightly on my shoulder. Not firm, not guiding, just there. Her thumb moved the smallest fraction, enough to send a current down my spine. She didn't move it. Neither did I. The bed creaked under her weight as she leaned back, but her hand stayed on me. She looked at me, lips parting like she was about to speak, then closed them again. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was charged, thick, pulling us both into it. And even when she finally let her hand slip away, the ghost of her touch stayed, burning on my skin. The bed was finished, though neither of us seemed eager to say it out loud. The tools lay scattered across the floor, but she stayed sitting on the edge of the mattress, and I hovered close, too close, pretending to check the bolts again. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Sharp, sudden. She flinched. Don't, she whispered, as if I'd been about to reach for it. The name lit up the screen. A man's name. I didn't recognize it, but the way she stared at it, frozen, lips pressed thin, told me enough. After a long second, she turned it face down. She began, but stopped. I sat down beside her without thinking. The bed dipped under my weight, tilting us closer. Our shoulders brushed. Neither of us moved away. You shouldn't be here, she said finally. I'm used helping, murmured. Her laugh was almost soundless. That's what I'm afraid of. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees, hands clasped. I studied the curve of her neck, the way a strand of hair had slipped loose and rested against her cheek. My fingers twitched with the urge to tuck it back. I didn't. Not yet. Footsteps thudded in the hall. My breath caught. She stiffened. But the sound passed, someone walking past the door, not stopping. A neighbor, maybe, or someone who shouldn't be there at all. We stayed frozen until the silence returned, heavier now. Her hand moved first, brushing against mine on the mattress. It could have been accidental, but it wasn't. I turned my palm up. Slowly, like testing dangerous water, she let her fingers rest in mine. I don't know how long we stayed like that. Her skin warm, her grip faint but unyielding. People will talk, she whispered. Let them, I said too quickly. Her eyes flicked to mine, startled, searching. She looked away before I could hold them. You don't know what you're asking for. The space between us narrowed. My chest brushed her shoulder when I leaned closer. Only an inch, maybe less. She didn't move. Her breath hitched. I felt it, not heard it. For a second, our faces hovered close enough that I could see the fine lines at the corner of her mouth, the faint gloss of her lips. Then she turned away sharply, standing so fast the mattress jolted. We can't, she said, voice low, firm. But her hands betrayed her, twisting together, restless. I rose slowly, closing the gap between us again. She didn't back away this time. We already are, I said. Her eyes snapped to mine, and though she didn't answer, she didn't step aside either. We stood there, caught in a silence thick with everything unspoken, closer than we had any right to be. And neither of us moved. The room felt smaller than before. Maybe it was the finished bed taking up space. Or maybe it was the way we kept circling closer, pulled in by something neither of us wanted to name. She stood near the window, arms folded across her chest. The blinds were half drawn, streaks of late light cutting across her face. You don't understand, she said, her voice steady but frayed at the edges. This isn't some game. I'm twice your, I don't care. The words shot out before I could stop them. They hung there, raw and irreversible. Her eyes closed briefly, like the sound of my voice pained her. When she opened them again, they were sharper, but not colder. You think you don't. But when people look at me, they see years, lines, mistakes. I step closer. When I look at you, I don't see any of that. Her breath hitched. She turned away, but not fast enough to hide it. I closed the space between us until I was standing right behind her. I could smell her perfume again, faint but intoxicating. I raised my hand, hesitated, then brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. My knuckles grazed her cheek. She didn't move. You shouldn't, she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. I can't stop. The words left me before I could measure them. I was too close now, close enough to feel the heat radiating from her body, close enough that my breath stirred the hair near her ear. She exhaled slowly, shaky, and leaned back. Not much, but enough that her shoulder brushed against my chest. You don't know what it's like, she said, softer now, almost pleading, to want something you shouldn't, to ache for it, and hate yourself for even. Her voice broke off. I turned her gently by the arm, and suddenly we were face to face, inches apart. Her eyes flicked over mine, searching, fighting, failing. Then stop hating it, I said. For a long, unbearable pause, nothing happened. We just breathed each other in, her pulse visible at her throat, my hands hovering just shy of her waist. Then her fingers lifted, trembling, and pressed lightly against my chest, not pushing me away, only feeling the beat that was too fast, too unsteady. God, you're making this impossible, she murmured. I leaned in, my lips so close to hers I could almost taste the anticipation. Her eyes fluttered shut, and just as the distance vanished, just as the world narrowed down to the space between our mouths, a knock rattled the front door. We both froze. The knock at the front door came again, harder this time. She pulled away first, fast, like the air between us burned her. Stay here, she whispered. I watched her disappear down the hall, her steps quick, controlled. The house went quiet except for the muted creak of hinges, the murmur of voices I couldn't make out. My chest still thundered from what almost happened. My lips tingled with the ghost of something that hadn't even touched. When she came back, her expression was tight, guarded. She shut the bedroom door firmly behind her and leaned against it, arms crossed. Who was it? I asked. She hesitated. Too long. Just someone who shouldn't be here, she said finally. I waited, searching her face. She avoided my eyes, brushing a hand through her hair instead. Her fingers trembled. You're lying, I said before I could stop myself. Her head snapped up. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. The truth sat between us, heavy and sour. You shouldn't pry, she said, but her voice lacked its usual certainty. I don't have to, I answered. Whoever it was, you're scared of them knowing about me. Her lips parted, but she didn't argue. She pushed off the door, walking past me toward the window. The space she left in her wake felt colder. Finally, she spoke, voice low. He was my ex. He still thinks he has rights to walk in, to check, to see. The word rights carried a bitterness that made my throat tighten. Does he? I asked. Her laugh was short, humorless. No, but he'd like to believe so. And if he saw you here, she trailed off. I stood, closing the gap between us again. Too close. My hand brushed hers as I reached for the curtain. She didn't pull away. You're shaking, I said. I'm not, she snapped, but her fingers curled into fists. You are. Her silence confirmed it. When I turned, we were inches apart again. The light caught in her eyes, fierce and fragile at once. You don't get it, she whispered. You would tell everyone. My family. My friends. I'd lose them all. The confession landed like a stone in my chest. I should have stepped back. I didn't. Instead, my hand lifted, brushing against her wrist, feeling the faint tremor in her pulse. I don't care who knows, I said, softer this time. Not if it means walking away from this. Her breath caught. For the first time, her body leaned into mine. Not much, but enough to feel the undeniable pull between us. You don't mean that, she whispered, though her fingers grazed mine, curling just enough to hold. Ido. Her eyes searched mine desperately, fear and want tangled together. And then, with a shuddering exhale, she whispered the words that tipped the balance. Then don't stop. Her words, then don't stop, hung in the air, heavier than anything else we'd shared. I didn't move at first. Neither did she. We just stood there, too close, our breathing tangled. The silence was alive, restless, humming with something neither of us could take back. Finally, I lifted my hand, slow, almost hesitant. My fingertips brushed her jaw, skimming the soft line of her cheek. She closed her eyes as if the touch pained her, but she didn't pull away. You don't know what this means, she whispered. I do, I answered, though my voice shook. Her eyes opened again, sharp and searching, as if daring me to prove it. If you cross this line, you can't go back. Neither can I. I leaned closer, close enough that the warmth of her breath skimmed my lips. I don't want to go back. The space between us snapped. She moved into me just as I bent toward her. It wasn't a kiss, not fully. Our mouths hovered, brushed, pulled back, then brushed again. It was messy, raw, a collision of fear and need. Her hand fisted lightly in my shirt, not to pull me closer, not to push me away, just to anchor herself in the moment. I covered her hand with mine, holding it there, feeling her pulse racing beneath my palm. She broke away first, her forehead resting against mine, eyes shut tight. This is insane, she murmured, breathless. Yeah, I said, but so is pretending it's not real. Her laugh was short, caught somewhere between despair and relief. I let my hand slide down to her shoulder, slow enough that she could have stopped me. She didn't. Her body leaned into mine, surrendering inch by inch until she was pressed against me. Do you know what people will say? She asked, her voice trembling. Does it matter? Her eyes flicked to mine again, softer now, stripped of all the shield she'd kept up. It does to me, or at least, it did. I swallowed, searching her face, every line and flaw and grace of it. And in that moment, I knew she wasn't untouchable, wasn't unshakable. She was human, and she was choosing me, just as I was choosing her. The air felt different after that. The tension hadn't vanished, but it had shifted, no longer the weight of what-ifs, but the gravity of something real. She touched my face lightly, almost reverently, her thumb grazing my cheekbone. You're too young to understand what this costs. Maybe, I said, taking her hand and pressing it to my lips. But I know what it's worth. She inhaled sharply, eyes glistening, her expression caught between fear and surrender. And then, with no words left between us, she kissed me. Not tentative, not hesitant. Certain. The kind of kiss that answered every question and left no room for doubt. When her lips left mine, the room stayed impossibly still. Her hands lingered on my chest, my own cupping the curve of her face, as if neither of us trusted the moment to hold if we let go too soon. She exhaled, shaky, and leaned her forehead against mine. I can't believe I let that happen. You didn't let it, I whispered. We did. Her laugh was soft, almost a sigh. You always have an answer. I shook my head, brushing a strand of hair back behind her ear. Not always. Just when it comes to you. We sat down on the bed, the same one I'd spent hours building bolt by bolt. Now it didn't feel like furniture. It felt like the only place that could hold what had just shifted between us. Her hand found mine, tentative at first, then tightening when I didn't pull away. The silence between us wasn't heavy anymore. It was easy. I was scared, she admitted finally. Scared of what people would say. Scared of wanting something I shouldn't. But you, she stopped, eyes glistening. You don't look at me like I'm broken. You just look at me. I squeezed her hand. Because I see you. The words landed. She closed her eyes briefly, letting them sink in. When she opened them again, her smile was small but real, stripped of all the guardedness she'd carried before. We stayed there, shoulders pressed together, letting the quiet hold us. Every little touch meant more now. Her thumb tracing slow circles across my knuckles, the brush of my knee against hers. It wasn't about rushing anywhere. It was about finally allowing what had always been there. She leaned into me, resting her head against my shoulder. I kissed the top of her hair without thinking, and she let out a sound somewhere between a sigh and a release. You make me feel, she began, then trailed off. Tell me, I said. her head tilted against me. Alive. Like I haven't in years. I swallowed hard, holding her tighter because I knew there wasn't a better answer than that. The light outside dimmed to evening. The house creaked softly around us, as if settling into the same quiet acceptance we had. Whatever came tomorrow, whispers, judgments, her ex showing up again, didn't matter right then. What mattered was the weight of her leaning against me, the warmth of her hand laced with mine, and the fact that we'd chosen not to step back. We crossed the line, and instead of regret, there was clarity. She turned her face toward me once more, lips brushing my cheek, lingering there. Not rushed, not unsure, just certain. And when she pulled back, her voice was low but steady. We'll figure the rest out. Together. Sparkles, did you enjoy the story? Fabaloon, what kind of stories would you like to hear next?